In this video, I'm going to give you 3 hacks so you can make your own leather belt at home really easily. At the end of this video, you'll be able to make your own custom leather belt using only simple hand tools that you can buy online. Let's dive into it. Right, so first let's set some context here. Having a good leather belt is really a staple of your wardrobe. A belt can often make or break an outfit, and we've all had those leather belts that are genuine leather, which means not leather at all. They just fall apart really quickly. I'm going to show you how to make a belt that will last you decades.
Tip number 1 is to buy your own pre-cut straps. Now this means you don't need to buy a strap cutter, so when you're just getting started out, that can really help. They come in a variety of sizes, and I've gone for 1¼ inch, and I feel that's the best size for a leather belt. And on to tip 2, and that's to avoid buying end punches at all. You can do all of this just with a sharp knife. So I like the English point style, but I'm gonna just cut it myself with a knife. It takes a bit of practice, but eventually you'll get there, and you'll get really nice ends to your leather belts. Now you've cut the really nice end for your leather belt in whatever style you like. Here I've got the English point style. Then what I'll do is go 3 inches away from the point, and then I'll put a little hole with my awl there, just to mark out the next point. So this is 3 inches away. This is going to be our first hole that we'll cut into the leather belt. Then we'll put another dot 3/4 inch away from that. So for the punches, you want to keep the hole as small as you can, and what that will do is it'll keep a nice tight fit around the rivet. Right, tip number 3 is to avoid buying an oblong punch at all. So oblong punches are perfect for making lots of leather belts and using really high quality tools to get there, but it is one of those tools that you only use for one purpose. Whereas you can get a punch set like this, and I picked this one up on Amazon, and it has a bunch of different really useful punches in there, and typically they also have oblong punches inside them. So here I'm using a 1¼ inch width of strap for the leather belt, and then I'll correspondingly use a 1¼ inch oblong punch to make that hole. So we've gone 3/4 inch away from that first hole, we've done our oblong punch, and then we'll do another 3/4 inch away from that to do our second hole. So you'll get a nice end result like this. Then what we want to do is prepare the first short section of the belt. So I'll bevel both sides of the leather belt. You can then use some sandpaper, and on this point, because you cut it yourself, sometimes you'll need to use some sandpaper just to round it out and smooth it nicely. Then for me, it's the standard. It's toconol and a wood slicker, just to finish those edges. Now next is on to making the belt keeper. Now this is an essential part of the belt because it keeps the end nice and tight and up close and just looks much better. Now these pre-cut straps are typically really long, and you can make your belt keeper directly out of the end of the strap. So I'll cut off a section, I'll split it in half because we want a reasonably narrow keeper. Now it can be difficult to get the length of the keeper correct. You want it to be reasonably tight because you want to keep the end of the belt nice and tight. So what you can do is you can keep cutting off a little bit, measuring it up, and making sure that you're not cutting off too much. A little hack is to wrap a belt in 2 like this, and then wrap the keeper around. You can then use your nail to mark up exactly how long the keeper should be. And bear in mind that the leather will stretch as it ages, so you want the keeper to be a little bit tight as you begin. Then just finish the edges, so we'll do a bevel on both sides, toconol and wood slicker. I'm going to use a narrow hole, and you can do this with a punch set, but I'm just going to use my rotary punch. And then once you have a hole at either end of the keeper, using some wax thread, I'm just going to loop it through a needle, and then I'm going to start from the inside of the keeper and work my way out. And then what I'll do is just wrap in and out of either hole 4 or 5 times. Going in and out like this will wrap the ends of the keeper really tightly together. And then at the end, I'll do a double knot on the inside. That just makes sure it's nice and secure and it's not going anywhere. Then, like any wax thread, I'll cut the ends short and then I'll melt the ends of the thread. Okay, so fastening the belt together. Now this can be one of the tricky parts, so let's work through this in detail. I'm going to use double cap rivets. Now I really like them because they provide a nice long-term durability and keep the belt nice and secure, but they also look really good. So I've got some brass hardware here, and that'll go really nicely with the brass buckle. So using a metal anvil, I'm going to set my first rivet. Then what we need to do is lift up the flap, and then we're just going to slide the keeper in behind the flap. Then I'm going to mark up approximately where the next rivet should go. You want to leave a little bit of space either side of the keeper. Then what you can do is punch through the first layer of leather. Put the keeper back on. So now what you can do, a little hack, is use your awl and tap it through to the front side of the main belt. And the reason for doing this is because you can then line up the holes perfectly every time. Then I'll just use my punch, cut at that hole, and then put my double cap rivet through, and then use a hammer to set it properly. And this is the end result. So you have the buckle nicely fastened, you have the keeper held in place with the 2 double cap rivets. Okay, next we're on to sizing the belt. So an easy way to know the size is to get the waist size of the person you're making the belt for and add 2 inches to the center hole. This just accounts for additional length needed to go through clothing and to make sure it's a nice snug fit but not too tight. So I'm making this for someone with a 26-inch waist, so I'm going to add 2 inches and make a 28-inch belt. So for the hole spacing, I like to go for a 1 1/4 inch spacing. I think this really gives the best spacing of the holes, whilst making sure it's functional, but also looks great. Now again, because the leather's going to stretch over time, I'm going to use a reasonably small hole, which will be a tight fit to start with, but it'll make sure that it's not too loose when the leather ages. Then at the end, I'm going to leave approximately 5 inches beyond the last hole. So you can see, even with making a keeper, we still have a decent amount of leather left on the end. Then, as I showed you earlier, I'm just going to use a nice sharp knife, and then for the end of the leather belt, I'm going to cut my own style of English point punch. With the sandpaper, it just helps to nicely even up the edges, because you are doing this whole process by hand. Then the last step really is just to finish all of those edges. So you've got a really long belt that you'll need to bevel on both sides. I like to start at the top and then flip over onto the grain side. And then I'll use toconol and a wood slicker and just nicely burnish all the way along the leather belt. This definitely takes some time, but the results are great. So you've just made your own handmade leather belt. This is very beginner friendly, very limited tools that you need to make one. And these will really stand the test of time. A handmade leather belt will age beautifully as you use it and become soft and supple over time. So congrats. Thanks very much for watching. If you've got any value out of this video, please like and subscribe. It really helps me to continue making these. Thanks.